Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about what's been happening in the Calgary real estate market over the past month and kind of how we ended up in this situation. So let's jump into it. My name is Nathaniel Terryberry with Terryberry Real Estate Group, and before we go and look at what happened last month in the Calgary real estate market, let's kind of understand how we got here. I hear a lot of people asking me, well, why is the market suddenly taking off like this, and what's going on? Why is it so hard to buy and so easy to sell, etc., etc.? So let's take a look at where this started, because it is not as easy as you'd think. To fully begin where all of this began, it is back in March 2020, as soon as the world was shutting down and COVID hit. The first thing that happened was the Bank of Canada lowered the interest rate. Now, this was due to kind of slow down inflation, make sure our economy didn't crash with the economic pressures of COVID. But this also made money very, very cheap to borrow. So if you were looking to buy a house, it was now cheaper than ever to borrow the money that you needed. That, coupled with all the lockdowns, especially in the beginning of March, where people realized if you're stuck in an 800 square foot condo and you wanted more space, or people were working from home a lot and then they realized, well, I need a better spot to work or whatever. And once you're trapped in that house, it really drove a lot of people to want to move. So low interest rate, then people want to leave, drove a lot of buyer demand, and that's why things in 2020 picked up so quickly again after the first initial lockdowns. So now we get to 2021. There were a lot of companies allowing people to work from wherever they wanted to, and people realized, oh, I don't need to live in the center of Toronto or Vancouver. I can still do my job, so maybe I'm going to come to Calgary. So we've got to see a lot of net migration. It was a little over 34,000 people net migrated to Alberta last year. Now, when you compare the average house price in Vancouver and Toronto is 1.3 and Vancouver is a little bit under 1.3, so like 1.27. So here in Calgary, it was at the time probably around 500,000, 520. And so you can see why people were coming in to Alberta, because the real estate was so cheap in comparison to where they've been. So that's what drove all the activity that happened in 2020 and 2021, because those were both incredible years for the Calgary real estate market. But now we are kind of in unprecedented times, something we have never seen before. We're setting new monthly records all the time now. Even February was a monthly record for Calgary just for sales. So why did this happen? Now we kind of have to look at the inventory. This is the main thing driving the housing prices and the reason that it is so competitive if you're a buyer right now. So because inventory levels were so much lower in January of this year versus January 2021, and the buyer demand had increased because there were so many buyers trying to get in before the interest rate increased, which had been talked about by the Bank of Canada, as well as people coming from Toronto and Vancouver, or Ontario and BC, just to generalize it a little bit. But there were so many people coming in, everybody's trying to get a house before the rates go up and it costs you more to borrow. So that's what kind of drove all the buyer activity. And at the same time that was happening, where the buyer activity is going crazy, the inventory stayed low, even lower than what we'd seen before. So if we look at January 2021, inventory then was at 4,038. Now jump ahead to January 2022, it was at 2,600. So not quite half, but almost. A significant drop in listings nevertheless. And then we move on to February, and you can see that in February 2021, the inventory is at 4,500, and now it's just at 3,600. So 3,600 in 2022, February. So you can see that there's quite a big difference this year versus last year in the amount of homes that are actually on the market. But what is even driving the sales prices of homes even crazier is the fact that there are so many more buyers out there than there would have been even if we had a regular inventory level. So will this continue to keep going? Now, it's tough to say, because if there is more that comes on the market and we can feed that buyer demand, then the market will slow down and we won't see these crazy $100,000 over list price sales. However, at this point in time, I can't see there being enough inventory coming to the market to slow the buyer demand. So I would say that we are at least stuck with this until June, and that is also what CREB had said in their 2022 forecast. However, it is very tough to say where it goes from there. If there's a ton more listings, then maybe it'll start to slow. If not, this might just be the new normal for us for right now. Now, I don't think this is going to continue for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but at the moment, Calgary has some of the most cost-effective real estate in comparison to other major cities in Canada, and is also an incredibly livable city. So it's attracting a lot of people. There's a lot going on. tech is coming, film, oil and gas, everything is coming back. So people are asking, well, maybe I'm going to wait to buy a house until the prices go down. Unfortunately, it does not seem like the prices will be going back to what they were in November, December of 2021 anytime soon. So now that I'm through that whole spiel, you kind of understand how we got here. That is the framework. It's not really just one thing, it's the accumulation of steps that got us to where we are now. But let's just take a look at what's happened last month so you can fully understand what's going on in the Calgary real estate market, and we can kind of move on from there. So first things first, let's take a look at sales for February 2022. We're at 3,305 in total, which set a whole new monthly record for Calgary February sales. And then if we compare it to 2021, this is where you're going to see the big difference. February 2021, we had 1,831 sales. In total, that is an 80% increase year over year. We're doing this with even less inventory than we had last year. So 80% up with about 60% of the listings that we had the year before. The other half as well of this is days on market. Now, because everything is selling for so high and there's so much buyer demand, things are also selling quickly. So last year, February 21, average days on market was 45. We usually actually say that's pretty healthy, not unrealistic. This is including everything, condos, townhomes, detached, semi-detached, everything. And now it's at 25 across the board for Calgary, 25 days on market on average, no matter what kind of property it is. So you're seeing that homes are selling, there's a lot more homes selling, and they're selling very, very quick. Now, to jump onto how much that has actually increased the sales, because you know a simple principle of supply and demand. We have a low supply and an incredible demand right now. Prices in Calgary have been increasing. It's almost every month that they've been increasing year over year. Since 2020, it's been looking good. But now in 2021, this is really where we're seeing the large increases in price. And this is where a lot of people are deciding, you know what, I am going to sell my house because now I can actually get more than what I could before, back in 21, 20. And they'll actually make money. They'll make more money than when they bought it, especially those who bought in 2012, 13, 14, when the market was really high. So let's take a look now at the average sales price, because, you know, supply and demand. There's so much demand out there. There's no supply. Therefore, the price goes up. So looking in February 2021, the average sales price in Calgary was $486,490. Now, skip ahead, February 2022. Our average price is $547,720. That's over $61,000 increase, or about 12% just in 1 year. Crazy to see, but also it makes sense because there is so much buyer demand out there and there's nothing to be seen. So people are going crazy overbidding on stuff, going $120,000 over list and just going mental. Now, as a part B to the sales price, I like to look at the sales to list price ratio just to see how much the homes are selling for in comparison to what they're being listed for. To basically explain what sale to list price ratio is, if I listed a home for $100,000 and I sold it for $98,000, then I would have sold it for 98% of list price. So that's what your sale to list price ratio is. Ideally, you're always looking for 100%, and anything above is just gravy. Now, in Calgary right now, this is something we have not really ever seen before. It's usually hovering around 98, 99% of list price. Sometimes it's dropped down to 97. It really depends on the time of the year and what year we're looking at. But right now in Calgary 2021, in January, it was about 101.5% sale to list price ratio. That means on average, every single house that was being put on the market was selling for exactly what they asked for and then a little bit more. But the sales to list price ratio in February 2022 was 103%. So that means on average, everybody got 100% of the list price plus 3% on top. Now that means there were some that were getting way more and there were some that were getting less, but this is just an average. It's quite crazy to think that across the board it is 103% sale to list price ratio. So that is just due mainly to part of the fact that we have no listings and such a crazy buyer demand, and people coming from outside of the province because they sell their $1 million home. They're buying a $500,000 home that is still bigger than the home that they had back in Ontario or BC, and they have that extra money to be able to put in. So we're seeing a lot of stuff. Every week I'm quite surprised at how much stuff is selling for, and it's getting really tough to find valuations for people just because it could sell for more. It depends really what people are willing to spend. And right now it just seems like they'll spend whatever they can. So that is your February market update. I'm not going to go into townhomes, condos, detached, everything like that, just because it's too much and you get bored. But if you are looking for the full report, which does cover all of that, I'm going to put a link down below. You can go check that out, send it directly to your inbox, and then you'll be good to go. Comment below, let us know what you think of this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with everything happening in the Calgary real estate market. And until next time, I'm Nathaniel Terryberry. We'll see ya.